Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy, physically and spiritually. Today is Erev Shvi Shel Pesach, Erev the Yomim Achreinim the Chag Pesach. I just want to say I'm not feeling so well, so if I'm not up to my regular standard, please forgive me. So as usual, since the war started, we start with Tzedakah. Daily Tzedakah Shemakarev Sagula. The Yidden should win. Mashiach now. We're going to say a prayer. We say this every single day before Shemona Esrei. Emes Mitzrayim Geltonu Hashem Elokeinu. The Eibusha took us out of Mitzrayim and Beis Avodim Pidisonu. He redeemed us from the house of slaves. Kol v'cheim arakto v'cheich Yisrael Galto. He smit all the bechirim of the Egyptians, and our firstborns were redeemed. Yamsuf lehem b'kaito, and you split the sea, the Yamsuf. So we see that not only do we say El Yosher every single day by Shachas, but we have to mention the idea of Kriyas Yamsuf after Shema, which means that even though we mentioned already before Yetzias Mitzrayim in the third parsha of Shema, we still have to mention afterwards the idea of the splitting of the Red Sea, because the splitting of the Yamsuf, because that is the real ultimate climax of the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Like we say also Hamayrev Bonim V'Gizi Yamsuf, V'Sedfei V'Seneim V'Seim Tiba, etc. So today is Erev Shvi Shel Pesach. Shvi Shel Pesach was the Nes of Kriyas Yamsuf, as we'll discuss. And Achar Shel Pesach, as we all know, we say in the Haftarah, things that are connected to the Geula Asiyah Mashiach's times, the ultimate redemption. We spoke about many of these themes already before, but today, I hope I'm going to speak about something I'm not sure if we ever spoke about it before. And what's the connection to the Parsha that we're learning this week, Parsha Shmini? There's a word in the Sichas of the Filig Rebbe, in one place where he says that the Rosh Hashanah for Mesilas Nefesh is Purim. The Rosh Hashanah for Mesilas Nefesh is Purim. Which means that from Purim, we get the power to have selflessness and self-sacrifice from the Yontif of Purim. But there's another Sicha of the Filig Rebbe where he says that Shvi Shel Pesach is the Rosh Hashanah of Mesilas Nefesh. So we have a klotz kasha over here. What is it? Is the Rosh Hashanah of Mesilas Nefesh Purim, or is the Rosh Hashanah of Mesilas Nefesh Shvi Shel Pesach? And similar to the famous question about HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem, as everyone who studied Chassidus knows the famous question, what does it mean HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem Reish Chodoshim? We already have a Rosh Hashanah. There's Aleph Tishrei, which is the Reish Hashanah. So how can we say HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem Reish Chodoshim, that Reish Chodesh Nisan is in a way the head? A person with two heads would be very problematic. Everyone knows the answer in Chassidus, that there's Anoga Nisis and Anoga Tivis. It's not that the two heads in the same body, so to speak. It's two heads for two different systems. So it's not a problem. Aleph Tishrei is the Reish Hashanah of Anoga Tivis, the natural order. Reish Chodesh Nisan is the head of the miraculous channel. Okay. So that's going to be, I once heard an explanation, I forgot even from who, that he said the following. There's two types of Mesilas Nefesh. And this brings us to a very interesting subject about life. On the one hand, we have spontaneity. Take a leap. Doing something extraordinary, completely beyond your regular capabilities and your regular faculties, etc. But then there's also another sort of Mesilas Nefesh, which is not spontaneity, which is not do or die moment, but consistency, commitment, the daily grind. And these are two different sort of talents. And this is the two Rosh Hashanahs. The Rosh Hashanah of Purim from Mesiras Nefesh. Like the Alter Rebbe says, the famous word that it says that from the time the decree came out, they had a choice that they could have converted, and there was a way out that you wouldn't get killed. And the Alter Rebbe explains, the thought didn't enter their mind for an entire year. So that shows on the Mesiras Nefesh of consistency, perpetual. But Pesach, the story of Mesiras Nefesh that's over here, was one of these epic, grand, unbelievable moments. Do or die, and you have to stretch yourself completely. Jump! And that's the Mesiras Nefesh, Rosh Hashanah Mesiras Nefesh, that we take from Shishal Pesach. So let's dive into it a bit. Let's talk about the story of Shishal Pesach. The Yidden went out of Mitzrayim 7 days before, and all of a sudden they're trapped between the entire Egyptian army behind them and the sea in front of them. And there were 4 groups of people. One group said, let's daven. Another group said, let's maybe go back to Egypt. It was a failed escape attempt. Another group said, no, let's fight. And another group said, we'll throw ourselves into the sea, commit suicide. I'd rather be dead than be a slave. Meanwhile, Hashem had told Moshe Rabbeinu, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yiso. And the Rebbe explains in many places, all 4 groups were wrong because they weren't responding to the call of the hour. What was the call of the hour? Go, go, go! Leap! Nachshon ben Aminadav saw what was going on, and all the other heads of the Shvatim didn't want to be the first, and Nachshon just jumped. And the water came to his mouth, and he said, Hishiyeni Elihim, Kivo Mayim ad Nofesh. And Moshe Rabbeinu took his stick and hit the sea, and the miracle happened. So it does say in one place that the miracle happened because of Yeshu's body, but there's no question. It also says in places that it was because of Nachshon ben Aminadav's Mesiras Nefesh that the sea was split. And that's what it means that Shishal Pesach, the Rosh Hashanah of Mesiras Nefesh, you're facing impossible odds. And nevertheless, you have complete betachon in Hashem. Hashem is the one who runs the world. Hashem says, go, go, go. Forward. So then it doesn't make a difference. We're standing in front of us. With Hashem's help, we'll be able to walk through walls. And it won't be a problem. So that's the Mesiras Nefesh that we take from Nachshon ben Aminadav. So, to give another example, where the Rebbe speaks about this concept, which is very, very beautiful, is there's 2 types of karbonos. There's what's called Tmidim Kesidron or Musafin Kil Chosam, which literally translated means, Tmidim Kesidron means the daily offerings are in order, Musafin Kil Chosam, and our additional offerings is as prescribed. There were 2 types of karbonos. There was the carbon that we brought, Tmidim Kesidron, one in the morning and one at night. And then there was the musafim, the additional ones for special days, Yontiv, etc. So the Rebbe would speak about this concept that I'm speaking about right now and explain how we have to have both of these dimensions and both of these aspects in our Avodas Hashem. We have to have the Avodas Hashem of Tmidim Kesidron, consistency, commitment, Zugetragenkeit, apply yourself. Sometimes that's much more difficult. It seems like it's boring. But still, be the reliable one that no matter what, you will, come rain, come shine, whatever the story is. And that's Tmidim Kesidron. And then there's Musafin Kil Chosam. Sometimes with the special days, extraordinary times call for extraordinary actions. That's the idea of Musafin Kil Chosam. Everyone knows the famous word. It's been repeated many times. There's a Braisa. There's a Braisa in Teres Kohanim, which brings down a question: what is the most important pasuk in the Torah? And there's 3 Tanoim. One said V'ahavta l'recha kamecha. The other one said Nas Adam b'tzalmeni k'dmeseinu. And then there was a third that said that the most important pasuk is Hakeves Echad Taseh b'Beker v'Yis Hakeves Hasheni Taseh ben Rabbi. That the lamb you bring, excuse me, sorry, the lamb that you bring in the morning, the carbon tamid, And they bring at night is the most important pasuk. So all the Mefarshim talk about it, everyone brings it up. And they ask the question, could be one of them said the most important pasuk is Shema Yisrael. So maybe if you say the most important pasuk is Shema Yisrael, or you say Adam Nivri B'Tzelem, B'Tzalmeni Kid Meseinu, or V'Hafta L'Echa Kamecha, whatever the different psukim that they said, we understand. These are fundamental precepts in Yiddishkeit. What's so gewaldig about a Sakeves Achot Taseh B'Beike, a Sakeves Hasheni Taseh B'Nei Aboyim, which seems pretty lame as a concept in Judaism, as a fundamental precept, compared to the idea of how Hashem is one, Achdus Havaya, etc. And the Mefarshim explain, because that's exactly the point. Religion, or if you don't like that word, the relationship, the true measure of a relationship is not the couple is getting along when they go on holidays. It's great. It's new surroundings, tropical trees, beautiful weather, away from work. There's no pressure. So we get along. Fine. Question is, how do you get along on a simple Tuesday? When you have to deal with whatever tensions there are, whatever pressures there are, picking up the kids from school, making sure this is happening and that is happening, the daily grind of life. And in a certain sense, the true measure of relationship and real dedication is not in those moments that are glorious, or those moments that are exotic, or different, or special, but in actually the day-to-day life. How do you get along when you're not going on holiday, etc.? And that's the difference between Tmidim Kisidim and Musaf and Kilchosim. And therefore, according to the one that said that the most important pasuk in the entire Torah is Esakeves Ha'echot Taseh B'Beike Ve'esakeves Hasheni Taseh B'Nei Aboyim, is telling us that the connection to the Eibishter is not measured in your emotions. Oh, I love God. I love Judaism. That's very nice emotions. It's very nice spirituality. But Tachlis means the Eibishter said, Davar B'nei Yisroel v'Yisro. And the daily life. Listening to what Hashem wants. Following instructions. Even if it's difficult, because it's a lifetime commitment. Going to shul every single day, 3 times a day. Like the Rebbe gave a hero to learn Rambam. It could be difficult for some people, because the Rebbe wants you to do it every single day. There's those that learn 3 prakim, which is the way the Rebbe really wanted it. That means every single day they're taking out of their day a relatively huge amount of time to follow what the Rebbe wants. So it's the same thing with the Eibishter. Real relationship is not measured by the not normal times, extraordinary times, but the real measure is of the relationship is in the regular day-to-day life. So now let's go back to Purim and Shvisha Pesach. Purim time, we have to talk about this quality of the Mesiras Nefesh, of what it means, the daily Mesiras Nefesh. Shvisha Pesach, tonight, we have to talk about the one-off Mesiras Nefesh, because they're both equally important. Like, for example, the Chassidim in Russia, when they were facing opposition with the communists, and they had to dig deeper inside of themselves and turn into lions to be able to face insurmountable odds. And it seemed to be like it's an impossible situation. And nevertheless, they dug deeper and they became superheroes. But the Rebbe also brought the other side of the coin, that when you took some of these people and took them out of that sort of environment, do or die moments, then they didn't really recapture that level of intensity that they had when there was some sort of danger, etc. But in any case, Shvisha Pesach, we have to dig deep to take the strength and the power to be able to go beyond ourselves. In general, by Lubavitch, for those that are Bachem and remember what's a Lag Boimer parade, 3 days without sleep, weeks of preparation, The same thing is camp, there's color war. These are all sorts of nachshim and other moments where you just have to, it's not about, there's no food, there's no sleep, there's no nothing. It's about the mission. And we have to carry through the mission. Those are the nachshim and other moments. But then there's when you're normal back to civilization, the idea of Mesiras Nefesh day in, day out. So let's just talk about both sides of the coin. To talk about one example of daily, that Rebbe told Dr. Weiss that every single day, no matter what, he makes sure to spend 15 minutes with the Rebbetzin. So the Rebbe has thousands of letters coming to him. There's prime ministers, there's generals, there's the world affairs, there's the problems of Gans Kal Yisrael on his shoulders. Nevertheless, it was Kodesh, Legamri, that he had to sit down and connect with the Rebbetzin every single day in such a simple, physical way of spending 15 minutes sharing a glass of tea. I forgot exactly, but something like that. That's the Mesiras Nefesh of consistency. That's the Mesiras Nefesh of daily commitment. And that's the Mesiras Nefesh of routine. And we know in life that if you follow these things, you'll be very successful. Seder. And for some people, that's the harder part. But then there's the other side of the coin, which is some people are very good when it comes to schedule, when it comes to fitting into a system, but they can't break out of the box. They don't have the Nachshon Ben Aminadav. Leap. Jump. That's Nachshon Ben Aminadav. There's a story, I said this once before. I heard this from my Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Bukit, that somebody once came to the Rebbe in Yechidus. A lot of stories that start this way. Somebody once came to the Rebbe in Yechidus and told the Rebbe that, you know what, I was in the Zal. I heard so much about the Lubavitcher Bachim. I was in the Zal and I looked at the Bachim and they don't look anything special to me. I don't know why people marvel at Lubavitcher Bachim. So the Rebbe said, it's very simple. What happens when you walk into a firehouse, fire station? You walk into the fire station, you see a bunch of firemen playing cards, relaxing, joking, etc. As soon as the alarm goes off, wow. Then you see the training kicking in, absolute selflessness, rescuing people, like going into the fire head first, rescuing people, one after the other. Even after they carry a person to safety, then they go right rushing back in, etc. So the Rebbe explained, that's the pshat, the bocharim. Yeah, when you're just walking in on a simple Wednesday and you're looking at them, you don't see how they're special. But in Lubavitch, it was always about Mesiras Nefesh. And whenever there's a situation where there's a danger, where there's opposition, and you need a bacha to be the fireman, you need the tamimim, David, that's where you see primarily the qualities of the bacharim, that the Rebbe sends shluchim to Australia, to France, to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkey, Ukraine, wherever it is. And nevertheless, they went there as one individual, and then they build up an entire community. And that's the Mesiras Nefesh of the Nachshon Ben Aminadav. They're the ones that are the pioneers, the chalutzim. They're the ones that will be the first one to jump and be ready, totally selflessness. Because if this is what the call of the hour is, we're ready to go out of ourselves completely. And you're able to accomplish things that are completely beyond the normal limitations and your normal faculties. So we spoke about Shvi Shel Pesach, and Achar Shel Pesach is Mashiach, and it's connected, as explained in many Maimorim Chassidus. So just like in the Schus of Nachshon Ben Aminadav, we had this miracle. It's explained that the same thing, we need Mesiras Nefesh. You need people in every single community. We need Nachshon Ben Aminadav, someone who's ready to go out there. And even if there's older people, scholars, rabbis that are not necessarily making the move, you need the Nachshon or the Pinchas. That person's going to decide he's jumping into the fire to do whatever has to be done. And we have the ability. So that's the connection to Achar Shal Pesach, because it's only through our Mesiras Nefesh, Ki Meitzeichem Eretz Mitzrayim, Aden Reflois, when we will arouse in ourselves and stimulate and motivate ourselves to the degree of a Nachshem and a Menadav, so in that merit, Mashiach will come, Begula Mitzvah Shlem will take it from Yad Mamish. And this is the connection to Parsha Shmini, as we spoke many times. 7 represents the cycle, the 7 days of the week. Shabbos shows on perfection of the cycle. But 8 shows an infinity, which is breaking out of all barriers, breaking out of all borders, breaking out of all boundaries. That's the idea of 8, infinity. And that's the same idea of Mesiras Nefesh, the Nachsham and the Mesiras Nefesh, that we're able to break out of all limitations and do something unpredictable. Surprise yourself. You'll be surprised about how much you can accomplish. So, Good Yontiv, Ki Meitzeichem Eretz Mitzrayim and Reflois. The Rebbe should help, the Mashiach should come now, as the Rebbe used to bring out many times, the Friedrich Rebbe's word, and we say L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. It doesn't mean L'Shana Haba that we'll have to wait till next year, but it should be in such a way that we can get redeemed right now, so that by L'Shana Haba we'll already be there in Yerushalayim. So, Kain Ti Alonu, take it from Miyad Mamish, posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarich, your man in Melbourne.